Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to day 2 of the ID for Africa Annual General Meeting. It is a pleasure to be moderating this session, and I would like to call up my first guest to make his first presentation on digital transformation via holistic secure identity management, an African success story. His Excellency Victor Domingos, CANHEMBA Jr., Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Interior, Mozambique. Please join me on the stage. Thank you. Good morning. Yes, have a seat. Yes, thank you. Good morning. Good morning, Your Excellency. How are you? Good morning to you. Yes, you can put that on. Yes. To your presentation.
Bom dia a todos, distintos participantes do ID for Africa e todo o protocolo observado. É uma grande honra e privilégio estar na vossa presença e agradecemos a organização pela oportunidade que nos concede de partilhar experiências de Moçambique na implementação com sucesso do sistema de emissão de documentos de identificação civil, de viagem, vistos e de gestão do movimento migratório. A nossa apresentação está dividida em 2 momentos. Uma delas tem a ver com a parte introdutória, que está a acontecer, e assim como com um vídeo que vos pode ou que vai dar um melhor cenário do que nós fazemos.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Of all the protocol observed, it's an honor and privilege for Mozambique to have the opportunity to share the work that's being undertaken in our country on the implementation of identity management system that will include the digitization of the travel documents and also of the ID documents in our country.
Neste processo, vamos contar também com a presença e a participação do senhor vice-presidente da Mühlbauer, Matthias, que também se encontra neste painel.
We will have the pleasure to be in this panel with the representative Horace Karl, the private sector entity that has been supporting Mozambique in this digital transformation activity. We would like to get the support from the technical team to share the slides.
Não está aceitado. Não está aceitado. Algum problema aqui?
We do have a PowerPoint presentation. I would like to ask the technical team to help us to share the slides. It's not?
It's okay.
No, it's okay.
Mozambique, Located on the southeastern coast of Africa, is a vibrant and diverse country known for its rich culture and stunning landscape, strongly committed to economic growth. With a population of 33 million people, the country is characterized by its youthful population, with 65% under the age of 25. The country is divided into 11 provinces and the capital city, Maputo, spanning an area of around 802,000 square kilometers. As a member of the Southern African Development Community, the SADC Mozambique offers countless opportunities for growth and development. By providing citizens with a robust identification system, Mozambique is empowering its population to engage politically, socially, and economically. To support this effort, the government has implemented a new identity management solution in partnership with Mühlbauer Groupe.
Este projeto abrangente, que engloba a emissão de vários documentos de identificação e soluções de controle e gestão do movimento migratório, foi executado com excepcional eficiência e competência, superando todas as expectativas.
The project comprised the implementation of a national eID card system, e-passport, and further travel documents, an electronic visa system, and a comprehensive border control system. A fully automated e-gate solution for electronic passports is currently being installed at Maputo International Airport. This electronic passport control system will allow for quick and efficient verification of travelers' identities, further expanding the robust identification system. The exchange of information is facilitated through one central data center for all documents and applications located in Maputo, serving as the backbone of the entire system. This centralization plays a key role in preventing duplicate identities and ensuring seamless connectivity and interoperability among all components. Additionally, the launch of a user-friendly e-visa platform simplifies visa application processes, enhancing accessibility and efficiency for travelers. The implemented solution operates flawlessly online and offline and offers accessibility even in remote areas with limited network coverage.
Ao alavancar tecnologia e conhecimento de ponta, a Mühlbauer não só modernizou os sistemas de identificação, mas também capacitou Moçambique para prosperar num mundo cada vez mais interligado.
One identification system for multiple application and use cases from which the citizens of the Republic of Mozambique truly benefit.
O projeto em referência é baseado numa parceria público-privada, porém, antes de nós avançarmos com o acordo de implementação do mesmo, o governo de Moçambique trabalhou arduamente para identificar e acautelar todas as nuances de natureza administrativa, política, social e econômica, ajustando-se à realidade conjuntural do nosso país.
This is an example of a successful partnership between the private and public sector in addressing a digital transformation project. Before the final decision on the private sector partner that will be working with Mozambique in this project, we had to conduct thorough studies from the political, socio-economic, and technological perspective in order to make sure that we were in the right direction and making the right decision.
Houve uma preparação que teve a duração de cerca de 6 meses e permitiu-nos implementar o projeto de forma compreensiva num prazo de 18 meses. O contrato, ora em vigor, é de cerca de 8 anos.
So we had the initial 6 months preparation for the teams that were part of the implementation, and the implementation itself it was 18 months, and the contract signed, public-private sector partnership, it has the duration of 8 years.
Ao parceiro cabe prover a tecnologia e ao governo garantir infraestruturas logísticas, assim como recursos humanos e materiais.
The private sector has the technological responsibility, and the government of Mozambique has the logistical and other policy or political related aspect and administrative for the successful implementation of this project.
São cerca de 21 documentos que estão à volta deste projeto, referenciando o bilhete de identidade, passaportes, autorização de residência para estrangeiros e vistos, incluindo até a gestão do movimento migratório, envolvendo somente a Mühlbauer, que é o único provedor de serviços.
So, as part of the implementation of this solution, we will be integrating 21 documents that are currently handled individually. At the conclusion of this project, all these documents will be working as part of the interoperability between all of them. The main ones is the ID, the passport, visa, and many other public administration related documents that are part of the service delivery in our country.
Nesta parceria, o nosso objetivo é promover a inclusão social dos moçambicanos, incentivando a sua participação ativa na vida social, econômica e política.
Our main objective and the guiding principle is the inclusion of all the citizens of our country to be part of the digital transformation process. So all the economic and policy-related decisions take this guiding principle as one of the principal elements to be taken into consideration.
É importante dizer que todo ele é completamente operado por funcionários do governo, com suporte técnico de moçambicanos, portanto, toda a solução é gerida por moçambicanos.
The human resource aspect, and it's one of the key elements. We would like to share that all the operational aspects of this solution are implemented by the government officials in all its elements. The private sector partner handles the technological aspects, supporting the public sector officers who are operationalizing the solution.
Como dizia no início, há uma segunda parte que rapidamente o diretor, vice-presidente da Mühlbauer, Dr. Matthias, fará.
So our presentation has 2 elements, as we shared initially. We would like to invite the private sector partner from Mühlbauer to share the technical aspect related to the solution that we're implementing. Thank you very much.
Matthias.
Dr. Matthias.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. All is set, so I can sit down and have my coffee now. I was hoping at least. Okay, good morning again, and it's my honor to give you a little bit an overview how we approached this project with our partner, what we really did there, and what were the challenges. But in the end, what is the benefit to the people of Mozambique? Now, Mozambique is a huge country, and from the outset, it was the goal of the government to say, we reach all our people in the whole country, in the rural areas as well as in the cities, and we serve all of our people. And we want to do this in rapid speed. Now, what you see here on the slide is a little bit an overview on the infrastructure which had to be set up. To set up this infrastructure, you really need a partnership. And it was divided in 2 parts. One, Mühlbauer provides the technical infrastructure. The Mozambican government, the physical infrastructure, means building, electricity, internet connectivity, etc. To see the magnitude of that, we had over 230 offices all over Mozambique for the enrollment, registration, but also issuance purposes. Now, when I say 230 offices, that's actually only half the truth, because we had offices A for the ID sector and B for the passport and sector, and last not least, another 50 offices for the border control. So altogether, over 500 offices which need to be set up. Not just set up, but also managed logistically. We had 11 provinces where we set up hubs, centers, to cater in the main cities in these provinces. We had the embassies which need to be covered. But we had one central data center in Maputo and one central production center. So we had a mix between centralized data management, centralized production, but decentralized services. Not enough. We had to make sure that we can also reach, the government can also reach, the people in the real rural areas. So we had mobile enrollment, mobile issuance, mobile services. This extended to over 100 motorbikes, 20 cars, trucks, and so on, which were equipped with enrollment, issuance, and service tools. We had to consider that all these systems need to run offline and online. We had to consider how we get the information secure to the data center. So this partnership had to think before we sign a contract exactly who does what and when. And trust me, these negotiations, this setup of a system was not easy, because it all comes with cost, it all comes with risks. Which brings me to the partnership in general. Public-private partnerships are usually seen as a financial partnership. But actually, it's much more. It's risk mitigation. While we talk about physical infrastructure, let's have a closer look on the software side, on the platform side. And I really like to stress this. While we have the applications in the field, while we have the services in the field, we were convinced, and it proved to be right, to have production center and data center central. And here comes something which is probably more important. Governments are usually have divided divisions. You have foreign ministries, interior ministries, justice ministries, and usually they all have different responsibility. Birth certificates are with the justice ministry, the passport or visa section is usually the foreign ministry, driver license with transport, and ID with the Ministry of Interior, for example. But Mozambique said, listen, we want one mother database. We want one register from which we derive all the other documents and services. So it was a clear decision, a conscious decision to say the ID database is the database from which we then generate all other documents and services. If you want, so it's the mother of all databases. It's the core center. That had many benefits, because we said these different databases, these different services we render, we can communicate with each other, we can connect them to each other, and we can compare the data with each other. And what we forget always in the beginning of this project, we talk about document management, but it's much more. It's a document management, but it's also the data management, and it's also the control of it, if you want so, who did what when. It was very important to the government of Mozambique to say, I want the life cycle management of the document and of the data and the people who operate it. So today, Mozambique can say, when did I enroll? Who enrolled this person, registered it? Who approved it? Who gave approval for the document production? Who issued it? When was it issued? When were changes made on the data sets? We have a complete and 100% data management of the document and the data. A life cycle management. But when you go on, it was important to the government to say, hey, this partnership must lead to one thing. We, as Mozambicans, are 100% in control of our system. You're a technology provider, but Mühlbauer, I don't want to see you anymore after 18 months operating our system. And we can say proudly that after 18 months, we have trained over 1,000 Mozambican officers, citizens, high school graduates, and after 18 months, the operation of the system, from enrollment, over data management, from hardware mechanics to software engineers, it was run 100% by Mozambican people. We have an office in Mozambique with 60 people. Not one of them is non-Mozambican. Not one European, not one American, not one from Kenya. The whole operation, service, maintenance, all is done by Mozambique. The only role today Mühlbauer has is upgrading the system or updating it and reacting to new requirements. There's one thing which is really important to that. And I love this phrase. These projects are never static. Never. These projects are like a living beast. And you face permanent challenges. We faced one huge challenge, COVID. How do we deal with this? How do we still issue documents in such an environment? How do we cope with the loss of income to the ministry, but also to the company? And you can only do that if you have a trusted relationship between the partners who execute this project. If you have built in your contract and in your solution and in the mind of the people who work here together, that is not a business deal. That is not a self-serving purpose to have a document in place. No, we jointly render a service to the people over a period of time. We walk together, not alone. And that was the success, and I personally believe it is one of the biggest success stories on the African continent. We have issued in the last couple of months 8 million documents, flawlessly. And we are very proud of that. Now, the document itself is nice and neat, but it's only a tool. And the tool is to enable the people to participate in social, economic, and political life. But also, it is, of course, the purpose to create security, to stop fraud, criminal activity, and so on. Now, this is not the end of the story. It's basically the beginning. Of course, we have the e-visa service implemented. Of course, we have the seamless traveling implemented. But now we're going more into the digital world. We now melting more and more together, fusing together the private sector, the benefits in the private sector and public sector, to provide more services to the people, to enable them. That's actually what we do, the government, and we help the government of achieving this goal. Let the people benefit from the investment which the government has conducted. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was a very excellent presentation by Your Excellency KANHEMBA Jr. I've got two questions to ask you, and then I'm going to take a question from the audience. My first question is, why did the government of Mozambique opt for the PPP solution, for its identity solution?
Muito obrigado. Dizer que optamos por esta parceria porque temos a consciência de que o setor privado é dos parceiros incontornáveis no que diz respeito às tecnologias.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. The main reason why we have selected the private sector as a partner for the implementation of this project is that it is the understanding of the government of Mozambique that for technological related matters, the private sector is in the leading edge, and we need to work in close cooperation with the private sector to solve digital transformation projects.
Para fechar, outro aspecto é que há sempre uma vantagem, e uma delas é de que todos os riscos decorrentes da produção dos documentos, riscos, neste caso ligados à tecnologia, são suportados pelo nosso parceiro.
Another dimension is that a technological project or solution like this carries also risks. It was part of our strategy to transfer the technological related risks of the solution to the private sector to handle them.
My next question is, how can you demonstrate your solution meets the minimum requirement of security necessary to end the population trust? Because I noticed on the slide that you've got about 33 million people in Mozambique. The gentleman on the list, Karl, can you please take that question? Thank you.
The Honorable Permanent Secretary would like to ask the private sector partner, because this is a technological related question, to help us to answer. Dr. Matthias, can you please answer?
Sorry, the sound up here is really
So
bad, so I have not fully understood your question.
How can you demonstrate that your solution meets the minimum requirement of security necessary to end the population's trust?
Okay, if I have said that, then I have to correct it. Of course, we meet all security standards which are required out there today. Let me answer your question a little bit differently. I believe that our industry today has a huge range of standards which define how you set a system up, how security is built up, how you communicate, how you protect your data, and so on and so on. Honestly, we have today, when we implement projects, not a technology problem. Technology is available. The standards are set. And I would say you have also enough suppliers and security providers. These projects, like Mozambique, go well or fail with the people who implement it. In the end, we're in people's business. Mozambique ran so well because we, from the very beginning, considered the legal, the administrative, and the technical aspect equally important. The political, the administrative, and the technical aspect. And we had big teams when we generated this project, when we made a contract, of very openly discussing the political goals, the administrative and financial constraints And on top of it, we said, okay, we have to prepare for the unforeseen. And most important, we sharing risks. And we provide for mechanisms on dealing with these risks when they occur. And that's the most important thing, not the technology.
Thank you very much for joining me on stage, and thank you for answering my questions very well. And we are running out of time, so I need to take the next presentation. But it's been a pleasure having the team from Mozambique and His Excellency CANHEMBA Jr. on stage, and yourself. And thank you very much. So I think the audience should give them a round of applause. Thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure. Let me. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you so much. The second presentation, which I will be calling a very dear friend of the House of the National Identity Management Commission, up on stage 4, is identifying the right approach, key considerations for selecting and deploying a national digital ID program. I'd like to invite onto the stage Karim BENDADDA, Regional Sales Manager, Africa, IDEMIA. Thank you, Karim.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Dear ladies, gentlemen, dear Engineer ODUSOTE, Your Excellency, thank you for receiving me this morning to present you our humble experience as IDEMIA on the key consideration that we have to take into account when deploying a national digital ID program. Today, our focus will be on discussing the essential factors to take into account when it comes to deploy a digital ID program. As you are all aware, digital ID is beyond technology. Several issues, including social, economic, political considerations, must be taken into account. Our presentation today is based on our humble experience as IDEMIA on deploying several digital ID programs all over the world, as you see, with a special focus on some countries in North and South America, in Europe, and in Africa. Let's start with the foundations of trust. First, everyone must be included. Imagine a health system where elderly people and disabled people are excluded. Inclusivity is crucial to ensure that no one is left behind. By assessing this risk, we can guarantee equitable and effective system. Legal, privacy, and data protection are important points to consider too. Countries should enact specific laws governing the creation, the operation, and management of ID systems. These laws address cases and issues
like how to collect data, how to manage data, how to use and delete data if required, and of course, everything concerning the privacy of the user and the user consent, which is a main point to address when it comes to deploy such programs. For instance, Kenya, Morocco, Ethiopia, South Africa, they established dedicated digital ID regulation and laws for those topics. Standards, as you know, a digital ID system must ensure alignment with international standards. For instance, we have to propose solutions in order to be able to be compliant on the best practice in solutions like the NIST ranking, for example, for biometry, like the standards, OSIA, OpenID, etc., to ease the integration in one hand, and the other hand, the maintenance in terms of technical point of view and financial point of view. As you well know, user experience is the key element for every project deployment. Services and user experience focus are too important. For instance, countries like France, Morocco, they worked on a list of services which will consume the digital ID before starting this digital ID program, which is too important. Services like digital signature, government, private sector services like account opening for banks, for telco operators, etc., are important to list, to work on before working on such programs. And of course, user experience focus. As I mentioned before, we need to work on a design of those solutions, including the user experience from the beginning. Which is important to mention here is that we have to involve all the stakeholders on the private and the government, the public sector, on all the phases of the system, starting from the design, the rollout, and operation of the ID system. Security and privacy. As you are aware, in fact, the balance between privacy and security is an important element for the success of every program, and especially when it comes to digital ID. We have to protect privacy by putting in place a privacy by design principle when we develop such solutions. It means that we have to protect all the data when we have to collect and use sensitive data of users in order to avoid all the attacks, violation, data thefts, identity fraud, and discrimination. Adopting this privacy and security by design approach is primordial for the success of such solutions and platforms. Another important keyword, which is interoperability, that we discussed yesterday. It was one question, one important question during the yesterday session. It's related to the integration, because each system is here not just to be deployed, but to be used. And that's why we have to enable seamless data exchange across systems to foster collaboration between government agencies and the private sector, and of course, between government and the industry product roadmap, following the government objectives. Another point is to facilitate cross-border interactions. Such solutions in some regions are not to be used just in the country, but outside the country, like the UE wallet, like the projects we did, for example, in the Netherlands for the e-passport, etc. The Morocco use case is a good example of interoperability. As I explained earlier, they have a list of services, but they also created a dedicated agency called Digital Agency in order to support the service providers to integrate the solution easily and to support them in order for the usage of the platform. To summarize and as best practice, we need to engage all the stakeholders from the beginning, including the user, the end user, the citizen, by communication to explain the benefits of the system. Privacy safeguards, the balance between security, individual rights, the consent of the client is important for the success of such programs. And of course, we have to take into account scalability, and interoperability. What does it mean? It means that we have to build a future-proof design, to build a scalable infrastructure, because we have to anticipate the population growth and technology advancements. And of course, we have to consider from the beginning the long-term maintenance and funding. As a conclusion, based on a whole experience as IDEMIA on deploying such programs, the lessons we learned is to be flexible, to be agile, to be ready to adapt, and to continue improvement of such programs. Thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karim, for a beautiful presentation. Can you please take your seat?
Thank you.
On slide 4, I was intrigued to see that you have counter-fraud checks. Can you explain what that means?
On the counter-fraud checks, in fact, during the enrollment process, when it comes to enroll a user to create his ID or his digital ID in general, we have the opportunity to propose, in fact, solutions which will do the enrollment, an end-to-end enrollment, including access to root of trust, which we call root of trust. Those root of trust will propose solutions, transactions, in order to counter fraud, in fact, to decrease the fraud, to check all the background of the clients. Depending on the countries, we have access to governmental or private sector platforms in order to do that. And the objective is, during the enrollment, is to have a scoring of the clients. This score will be the baseline for the government or any service providers to continue the process of creation of this ID.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I'm going to take a quick question from Slido that we have. It does ask, why do you think there were controversies in Kenya around IDEMIA's role in voter and ID systems? Could you have handled that better?
Which question, sorry, because I...
Why do you think there were controversies in Kenya around IDEMIA's role in voter and ID systems? Could you have handled it better? That's a popular question on there.
Is it the first one? Can IDEMIA
yes,
open?
No, this one.
Okay, it's not the same.
That was a popular question that was being asked.
It's not the same. Okay.
Yes, can you see it? No. Highlighted.
Sorry, for Kenya, unfortunately, I'm not the good guy within IDEMIA to discuss it because I didn't work on that.
Okay, so that's fine. So we'll just skip that question and we'll just quickly ask you about the key lessons learned. And taking from your highlights, you focus on adaptation, flexibility, and continuous improvement. So what would you say are the key ingredients in your solutions architecture that allows for adaptation, flexibility, and continuous improvement?
For the adaptability part, in fact, this is related to many things: technical, functional, and return of experience of deployment, not theory, but also the practical point that we foresee, in fact, when we launch the program. For instance, in some countries, we have to be agile. That's why I discussed that point, which is agility. We need to be agile in order to update the platform, to update the system, to update the solution on a functional point of view, on a technical point of view, on an integration point of view, in order to follow the market and the business requirements, of course, for when the government needs.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask you one more question from the public, from the audience. Can IDEMIA open their biometric SDK codes for building a collaborative environment for solutions?
Well, can IDEMIA open their biometric SDK codes? Well, it's more a technical question, but which is important that is to mention on the biometric word is that, as you know, IDEMIA has the best ranking solution regarding the NIST ranking. They are used by our clients all over the world for many use cases for the enrollment phase. And of course, we are able, in fact, to do integration tests with our clients in order to improve those kind of solutions.
Thank you very much, Karim. It's been a pleasure having you up here. Can you all just give him a round of applause, please? Thank you so much. You did very well.
Thank you very much.
I would like to invite my third presenter on how a digital ID approach based on trust, inclusion, and adoption contributes to building sovereign digital public infrastructure. Céline Gouvier, Vice President, Identity Sales, Government Programs in Groupe. Please join me on stage. Thank you. Always a pleasure to see a beautiful woman up here. How are you sitting? So just and start your presentation, please. Thank you.
Wow, big room today. Thank you. Thank you very much for your interest. Bon dia a todos. Bonjour à tous. And good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished members of governments and institutions, and dear colleagues. I am Céline Gouvier, Vice President of Sales for ID Government Programs for Groupe, a public identity solution provider with headquarters in France, as you can guess, and working with more than 70 countries worldwide through different things. Our various solutions and components and solutions that we provide that are present, for example, in Djibouti, in Gabon, but also in other countries. Documents that we provide, for example, in Ivory Coast and Kenya, and also electronic and holographic components and PKI technologies through our brands SPS, Suris, and Nexus. Today, I'm going to share with you how easy it is to implement a sovereign digital infrastructure in your country. Because digital ID or no digital ID is not a topic anymore. Isn't that correct? Okay. But most of you are wondering how to achieve it. Why is it so complicated? How to begin? And the reasons are obvious. You know your immediate needs. to digitalize your services and to be sure, 100% sure, of the identity of the requester who is behind his mobile phone or computer. But what about tomorrow's needs? Nobody has a crystal ball to tell you what they will be. So you must take decisions that first avoid you to be technologically locked in. And of course, cover immediately your needs, but allow also future usages that you do not know of yet. And you do not have time, nor money to waste. So do not restart everything, and instead capitalize what you already have in your country. Whatever you will decide, it must be a solution compatible with options that you could open when you will need them, when you will want to deploy them. And to spice up the situation, unfortunately, the infrastructure must be robust, flexible, and accessible to a whole range of people, such as the public sector, private sector, but of course, the main one, the citizens. Indeed, they are very important because this infrastructure must enable them to participate in the digital transformation of their businesses and also to exercise their rights. In a frictionless fashion, of course, but also at a very low transaction cost. Always money. But how? It is easy. And the answer consists in 3 ingredients. The first one, you should follow a modular approach, granting you agility. It must fit your current needs, as I said, but also the future ones that you do not know of yet. The second is to follow open standards approach, granting you interoperability, and also avoiding you to be technologically locked in. And the third one, this is to follow a phygital strategy. What is phygital strategy? Let me explain then. Phygital is simply the shrinkage of physical and digital. And Groupe adopted it because it truly demonstrates how the two worlds are linked. You should do in the digital world what you already do today in the physical one, using physical documents. Of course, even if you do not have physical ID cards, you can deploy a digital ID to your citizens. This is obvious. But as we are seeing more and more countries changing their mind, changing their strategy, in finally choosing to deploy cards to their citizens, and DG, you are one of them, through Nigeria, but also Ethiopia. It demonstrates that physical cards are still necessary to grant a sustainable development of the digital infrastructure. Indeed, having physical ID cards provide additional benefits, such as inclusivity, because you already heard yesterday that citizens, the most important are citizens, they are so confident in having the physical document in their pocket. This is concrete, they can touch it. This is needed. And they can prove their identity whenever needed. Network, no network, wherever it is, they can prove it. Confidence. To have this precious sesame, the citizens have followed your rules, your procedures, your vetting. So then, the service provider can trust the documents that are presented. This is easy for them. And as it should be a secure document, very simply you can check if it is a genuine document or not. And if there is a chip or a QR code, even you can read them in offline or online mode. By the way, for people, governments, wondering about a chip or a QR code, maybe you should be informed, if it's not the case already, that as a government, if you want to provide a digital identity following the highest standards, international ones, such as the NIST or the EIDAS, for example, and I know that NIST is giving a presentation, if it's not this afternoon, it will be tomorrow regarding that. So if you want to follow this approach of international standards, so then, if you want to provide this highest level, a chip is necessary. A single QR code will not be enough at this stage. And of course, all the information could be signed and encrypted in your document, even if it is once again a QR code or a chip, whatever, this will grant you privacy. Now, if your country don't already have a national register, and you have this project of deploying digital ID, do it since the beginning, of course. But for the other one that already have a national register, like Kenya, for example, or Gabon, two countries we are, as IN Group, very proud and honored partnering with, and thank you once again for your confidence. You do not restart everything. You just add digital infrastructure to the existing infrastructure. And then you just need to add APIs to the service providers you want. But the last key point I wanted also to share with you is whatever the technological solution that you will choose, you should be really vigilant. If your partner is offering you an open standard-based solution, because of course, as already explained yesterday all day long, it will allow you to change and to add and smoothly add new components to your solution when you will need it. Not now, but tomorrow. It must be compatible. It will also grant you interoperability, because you must propose it, because once again, your needs are identified for today, but not tomorrow. So it is a must to have this interoperability granted. Following open standards also ease connection with users. And last but not least, it will avoid you these famous vendor locking issues. For example, do not hesitate to partner with companies who are OSIA compliant, because OSIA has been recently, and we are very proud to have listened to that, they are now an official international telecoms union, ITU. It will be a very, very good signal for you, governments, to have a partner following that standards. All these tips are to help you to build a sovereign digital public infrastructure based on trust and inclusivity. Thank you very much for your attention, and we, of course, we are at your disposal for any further questions you may need. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Celine. That was another brilliant presentation that we've had on this panel session today. You did mention about the digital strategy, which is being adopted to future-proof the EID system. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Does it work? Yes, it seems. Okay. For us, digital is really an answer to the current needs of governments. asking to reassure the citizens having these physical cards, but enabling them to be always ready to use the digital one. Because we, as I said, it's not a topic anymore to think about, do we have as a government to implement a digital strategy or not? It is obvious it is necessary. But most of the citizens still need to have this document. So to answer to this citizen need that is absolutely needed to grant the adoption of the digital infrastructure, we decided to provide at the same time the physical card, but also the digital one. And the best solution for us to avoid also people to come back to ask for the digital, once again, we are talking about sovereign digital ID. So it means that when citizens are coming to retrieve their physical documents, it is really easy to deploy on the mobile phone, since the beginning, their sovereign digital ID with the service of the civil servant. And this is really for us, as IN Group, the best solution that fits the requirement of citizens to host the document, but also for the governments to grant the highest level of confidence and trust on the identity.
Thank you very much for your answer. I'm going to ask you a quick question from Slido, and there are a few questions around this question I'm going to ask you. How do you, what are the recommendations to governments to avoid vendor lock-ins?
I think that trust is once again a very important thing, and to avoid to be vendor locked, there are a few tips. The first one is to follow the open standards that you already have in mind, of course, but also maybe in your contracts, in your legal agreements, to be sure that that kind of things is stated. And I'm very open to discuss it because this is the way we have always been working with the different governments for the last decades. And it works because the trust is here, the results are here, and this is tips that I think are really useful for governments. With a reference, of course, you can also discuss with the previous customers if it works and if they are happy with this kind of relationship. But I think this is the best advice I could give them.
Thank you very much. Can you envision a framework where a country can go directly to digital identity without ever having to issue a smart ID card?
I'm sorry, I have not got your questions. Can you please repeat it?
Can you envision a framework where a country can go directly to digital identity without ever having to issue a smart ID card?
Yes, of course. It's totally possible to issue...
We had this conversation yesterday. Yes.
It's totally possible to issue a digital ID even if you do not have physical card. But what is important is to be registered. This is the first point. Since you have a registered national database, you are in the database, so you should be able to have this digital ID deployed. But it is true that, as I'm talking about, again, the sovereign one, if we want to follow the international standard, this is not mandatory, of course, this is not a must, but this is a good way, a good trend to grant that for tomorrow's needs, you have the highest level of confidence on which some service providers will need to rely. Some banks, for example, they will not authorize citizens, even if they have a digital ID, if they do not have the highest one, the highest level of authentication, the level 3 about the list. So this is why, and the credential needed to do it online is still for the moment the card. So this is why for most of the usages, the physical is not needed. But if you want to anticipate that, this is good to have it. At least you must think about it since the beginning and then make your choose.
Fantastic. It's been a pleasure having you up here, Celine. Thank you very much for your time. Round of applause to Celine, please. My fourth guest that will be coming up to make a presentation this morning is going to be on effective pathways for building digital public infrastructure. Lessons from Thailand, Panama, and Chile. Please Thomas Antolik, Executive Director, EMEA Innovatrics, should please join me on stage. Thank you. Hi, Thomas.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tomasz Antolik. I'm the Director of Sales for the EMEA region at Innovatrics. We are providers of biometric technologies and solutions. And today I would like to speak to you very briefly about how a country can implement a digital national ID. The previous two speakers already spoke greatly about the topic of digital ID, e-ID, all the very crucial aspects of following the standards, following some best practices, what the key pillars are, the importance of interoperability. So first of all, I thank them very much for this, so that now I can maybe build upon this and show you or present this topic to you in maybe more practical way. And for this, I will use the story of Thailand, which I believe is a very great case study of how this can be done very successfully. At some point, Thailand decided that even though they already had a very robust national ID infrastructure, they would like to make this even more inclusive and bring the identity even closer to the citizens and bring them closer to government services, but also private sector services, so that they can get even better access to not just government services, but also bank accounts, bank loans, mortgages, which was very important for the country. And of course, they would need to make the whole system, therefore, even more trusted, so that the banks would be willing to provide such services either more willingly, more openly, or maybe more efficiently. And of course, the system would also have to be widely adopted, because if it's not used by the majority of the population, then it, I think, defeats its purpose. Before, however, I start talking about how the country managed to implement the digital ID, I would like to very briefly describe what was there before the digital ID and how the country then transitioned into from the traditional national ID to something more digital. So since 2019, Thailand has already been issuing a very trusted physical national ID card, which was biometric enabled. The card also stored fingerprint and facial biometrics, and they managed to issue more than 60 million cards to its population, to its citizens, meaning the vast majority of the population already had the benefit of a very robust and trusted physical national ID card and identity, therefore. And what it meant in very practical terms, how could a Thai citizen acquire such a physical national identity card? So let's say we have a hypothetical Thai citizen, Mr. Chanchai. If Mr. Chanchai wanted to obtain the national ID card, he would go to a physical government office, request a national ID card to be issued, and there he would be met by a government official who would capture Mr. Chanchai's biographical data, but also fingerprints and facial photograph, which would then be sent to a centralized automated biometric identification system provided by Innovatrics in order to perform a deduplication check to really make sure that Mr. Chanchai doesn't already have a identity in the Thai national system, and make sure that he would not be able to get another identity under maybe a different name, and thus preventing any kind of identity fraud. So again, this was already very, very robust and advanced system, and if everything went okay, the national ID card would be personalized for Mr. Chanchai with his information, his biometric data stored on the national ID card and delivered to Mr. Chanchai. Now, with this brand new national ID card, the Thai citizen could go to any government office and request all sorts of government services, register his residency, marriage, request some government documents, certificates, and he would again do so by going to a physical government office, produce his national ID card, which would be read, and also Mr. Chanchai's fingerprints would be captured on a fingerprint scanner and compared to the fingerprints stored on the ID card. And thus his identity would be verified, and if everything went well, the government service would be rendered to Mr. Chanchai. Now, of course, this still requires, first of all, a physical visit to the government office, but also, as you can imagine, some additional infrastructure, physical fingerprint sensors, and the ability to also read the card. Also, on the private side, in the private sector, if Mr. Chanchai would, for example, want to go to a bank and open a bank account or request a loan, a mortgage, he would again have to go physically to the bank, and the banks or, for example, telco operators, they wouldn't have the ability to read the data from the ID card. They wouldn't have fingerprint sensors to capture Mr. Chanchai's fingerprints. So the verification of the identity would simply be upon a private citizen, the bank teller, by simply inspecting the physical national ID card, looking at the photo printed on it, looking at Mr. Chanchai, and basically it would be their decision of a private citizen whether this really is the person that they claim to be, and it would be up to them to verify the identity. And if they did, again, the government service, the bank service would be rendered to Mr. Chanchai. So as I mentioned, Thailand decided that this was not good enough. Maybe also the banks would be hesitant to sometimes provide some services because they wouldn't be able to really trust the bank teller that they would make a good decision. They would also need to inspect physically the card if this is really genuine card, and there would still be some doubt, which Thailand considered to be kind of an issue. So how is it today? Let's jump right into that. Today, if Mr. Chanchai wants to go to, let's say, a bank, he would optionally could go also there physically. So let's cover this use case. But instead of his national ID card, which he would still have, nothing has changed in terms of issuing the physical ID cards. As was also mentioned by the previous speaker, the physical national ID card is still very much the cornerstone of the national identity. But now Mr. Chanchai has the ability to, instead of producing the physical card, to have his mobile phone. On this phone, he would have a government-provided mobile application called Thai ID, and in that in this mobile application, he would have a trusted digital token, which can also be manifested in form of a QR code, which he would then produce to the bank teller. And the bank teller would also have the ability, also provided by the government, but without the necessity of any physical infrastructure, basically at no extra cost, to simply read this QR code and in a real-time, online manner verify this QR code against also the government infrastructure, basically having the government verify that this really is Mr. Chanchai and not the bank teller. And also this is all in real time, so now the bank is establishing Mr. Chanchai's identity today, this minute, not maybe based on an identity card that was issued several years ago. This is because this whole system is online. You are verifying what is exactly in this moment, the truth. And if everything goes well, then of course the bank service is rendered to Mr. Chanchai. As you can probably imagine, Mr. Chanchai wouldn't even have to go to a bank physically. This can also happen online, and the digital token stored in his Thai ID mobile application can also be used for online verification of his identity through, for example, mobile internet banking, but also for government services. In Thai ID, there is access directly to some government services, and again, this takes away the necessity of Mr. Chanchai going physically to a government office, and he can now get access to all kinds of government services from the comfort of his home, and also private services such as banks, telcos, and so on. Okay, so seems very, very easy, very simple. So how did they manage to do that? So first of all, Mr. Chanchai, as I mentioned, would still have his physical national ID card that would be issued exactly the same way as before. But on top of that, he now has the ability to download that Thai ID mobile application that I mentioned before. And when he first does that, he will use digital onboarding technologies, also provided by Innovatrics, that are integrated into this mobile application. And through the use of these technologies, he will be able to register and create his digital national ID or digital identity, again from the comfort of his home, by usually three very simple steps. He would take a photo, all automated quality checked, guided photo of his national ID card. Again, as I mentioned, this is still there. This is the cornerstone of the identity. He would, the technology would extract all the necessary information, including the photograph from this mere photo. Mr. Chanchai, the next step, would also take a selfie, again, quality controlled, guided, very convenient, with the liveness check as well, to make sure that it really is Mr. Chanchai in front of the camera and not just a photo of him or a video. And then this data would be sent for further risk management checks to the government backend, where the automated biometric identification system, now enhanced with additional digital onboarding tools and technologies, would be still residing, and his identity would still be, of course, checked against the central repository, central database, and if everything went well, then the digital token would be created within this application for Mr. Chanchai, and now he can get access to all kinds of services. So very few simple, convenient steps that Mr. Chanchai can perform from the comfort of his home, and now he can transact with both government and private enterprises online, remotely. And on top of this, the main, I would say, benefits of this, and why the government wanted to introduce this, how they achieved the inclusivity and trustworthiness of the system, is that now Thai citizens no longer need to go to physical offices for every single transaction. They need to perform either with governments or with private sectors, which is a big game changer, because also Thailand is a vast country. Maybe the coverage for some of the private services or government offices is not so widespread. For some people, it can still be a blocker to travel hundreds of miles to obtain some government certificate or open a bank account. Also, it is now not in the private sector, the bank teller, for example, who is establishing the identity, but it's actually the government. So this is one of the most important aspects I would like to highlight here. The biggest difference is that while in the traditional physical identity frameworks, it is the government that is providing the reference identity, but it is then let's say the private citizen, a bank official, who is verifying the identity. But in this case, by introducing the national digital ID, it is both the government that is providing the reference identity, while also verifying the identity for the bank. So they're not passing this responsibility onto the private sector anymore, and therefore there is now no doubt when it comes to the genuinity of the identity. There are no longer any necessary physical inspections of ID cards, and this way Thailand really achieved the main goal of bringing national identity to closer to the people, and therefore included them even more into the access for both government and private sector services. To conclude my quick presentation, I would like to mention just one number. Shortly after the rollout of this system, there were already more than 20,000 such transactions through this new digital national ID infrastructure per day, and this was very briefly after the start of the system. And of course, ever more people, ever more Thai citizens are now being enrolled into the digital ID infrastructure. So all in all, this was a great success, and I hope you found this interesting. If there are any questions, please ask. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thomas, for that very lovely presentation. I noticed that when you were applying for government services on your last slide that you are using the fingerprints for identity verification. How are you capturing these fingerprints?
So the fingerprints are originally captured during the initial registration when the person is requesting the physical national ID, and then the government offices would be equipped with fingerprint sensors at the points of service, and this is the way the government would capture the fingerprint of the citizen in order to verify it against those fingerprints stored on the national ID card. But it's a very good question, because this was exactly one of the pain points that Thailand did have this very robust ID infrastructure, but at the same time it was only the government offices and not maybe even all of them that will have this ability, and therefore if the person, for example, went to the bank, there would not be any such fingerprint sensors, and therefore again it would be just a very traditional way of inspecting the physical ID card and looking at the photo. The bank teller would have to look at the photo printed on the ID card, look at the citizen, and basically making the decision themselves if this is really the same person.
Thank you for your answer. My second question is around the Thai ID. Can the Thai ID experience be replicated in a country with low smartphone penetration?
Yes, it's a very, very good question. Thank you. So in case of Thailand, most of Thai citizens would have access to smartphones. So that's true. But at the same time, also this technology that we provided in conjunction with our partners in Thailand and the Thai government was also optimized also for some very low-end smartphones. And secondly, you could still make the benefit and take the benefit of digital ID by also implementing this through web services. So people would still have probably access to online connectivity, maybe not on their phone, but on their computers or in internet cafes, and they can still take the benefit of that, because all this can also be rolled out not just through mobile applications, but also through websites, essentially.
Hello? Okay, great. I'm back on. How do you ensure total inclusion?
Total inclusion, that's again a very good question. I'm not sure. I'm sure there will always be cases that are problematic, that are maybe outliers. This is also the case for biometrics, and you need to have some workarounds around that. But I believe what this technology achieves is definitely higher inclusion. So maybe there are also some additional solutions, but this definitely brings the government and private sector services closer to the citizens and individuals.
Thank you again for answering the question. I've just got to take a quick question from the audience. The first question I see at the top does ask, can you explain the smart contracts usage in Thailand national ID?
I'm not sure I completely understand the question and the smart contracts, but if this is about maybe some e-signatures or using biometrics for signing contracts online, then of course the digital token can also be utilized for that, I'm sure.
What progress is being made to provide a unified national ID rather than the many different categories that currently exist at the moment?
Yeah, I can see the question now. Sorry, I have to read it again. Well, I think this digital ID would exactly serve this purpose, that you would then have one digital ID with physical cards. It can be the case that you have different versions from different times, and sometimes it's also some other IDs can be used, like driver's licenses. I think the digital ID exactly serves this purpose, that it's just one digital token, and you can prove your identity with this regardless of when it was issued. There's no expiry, or it can be, but just electronic one, and it's not just a matter of you have different IDs. Maybe in some countries it can also be, it's like a federated country, and then each state has its own IDs. The digital ID is exactly the way to go to unify the countrywide national ID system.
Thank you very much for your time, Thomas, and it was lovely having you on the stage. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please give him a round of applause. The last but not the least, my fifth guest on Unlocking Digital Africa using critical components of DPI, one step at a time. I'd like to call onto the stage Matthias, Chief Digital Officer, Protean eGov Technologies.
Good morning, all. Appreciation to the ID for Africa team for extending this platform and also commemorating this remarkable 10-year journey. Congratulations. I, Matthias, Chief Digital Officer of Protean eGov Technologies. Protean is one of the leading digital public infrastructure enabling organizations in India. As most of you know, India has done a very remarkable digital transformation journey in last decade. In this session, I would like to share all our learnings, experiences, and as the citizen, what we experienced within this journey. Therefore, our capacity and capability to fast-track the digital transformation for any country, and specifically in the African continent, one step at a time. So India before 2010, right? India lacked a unified digital ID, and the rural areas had limited internet phone availability. There was a large unbanked population, inefficient welfare spending, and others, as you know, 50 billion annual spends on subsidies, welfare that were having some leaks. As compared to India at 2024, over 1.3 billion citizens are enrolled into our national ID program. Over 1.1 billion mobile connections and 1 billion internet users widespread in the country. Over 80% of the population is now banked, facilitating financial inclusion. More than 75% receive direct benefit transfers, improving welfare efficiency, social security, and transparency countrywide. So building digital public infrastructure layer by layer, this is the India model. India's DPI strategy followed a very meticulous layer by layer approach, focusing on the foundational elements of identity, payments, and data exchange. Let's start with first, digital identities, the simple question of who I am as the citizen. That's where the national ID came in. What I do, the digital transactions, that's where the payment, trade, commerce, everything came into place. And what I have as a citizen, that's where the digital assets, money, digital assets, land records, transaction records, everything were digitized. The Aadhaar framework, which is our national ID, has provided over 1.3 billion citizens with unique digital identities, streamlining access to government services and reducing leakage. Innovations like United Payment Interface, which is UPI, enables seamless interoperable transactions, empowering individuals and businesses. UPI is India's homegrown real-time mobile payment systems. It's a QR code-based payment system which is interoperable and essentially zero cost. It has now grown to become one of the world's most widely used payment systems and is global leader in digital payment systems. Data exchange frameworks ensure ownership and control over users' data and its rightful owners. There were data protocols designed way back in 2016, secure and efficient information sharing between government departments, enhance governance, service delivery, while giving the control of the data in citizens' hand. This digital infrastructure is interoperable and stacked together, as you see in the screen. Private players, entrepreneurs were unable to build their own solution. We have large big techs operating on these stacks, as well as out of the college, fresh entrepreneurs and young people building apps and use cases over them. 17 plus transformational stacks are launched since 2010 across digital identity, digital transactions, digital assets, and open digital ecosystems. The inclusive and equitable access increased digital adoption and paved the way for next wave of data empowerment. Through India Stack, India created a model that is more equitable than the US's laissez-faire approach, more innovative than the EU's regulation-based model, and more transparent than China's totalitarian template. These are the few use cases. Aadhaar's biometric identification system has streamlined access to government services and facilitated innovative use cases such as Aadhaar-enabled payments and vaccination records. UPI has revolutionized digital payment, empowering users with seamless transactions through platforms like Bheem app, which is a payment app, and an e-commerce integration to it. DigiLocker is our very own credential app, which provides a secure space for storing and sharing these digital documents as credentials, benefiting sectors like education and mobility. That's the beauty of this DigiLocker is the physical document as well as the verifiable credentials of these documents are available. The account aggregator framework ensures consent-based sharing of financial data, enabling personalized financial services and loan applications. Platforms that have been built on these core DPIs like CoWIN has streamlined vaccination processes, while Diksha enables education through digital resources for teachers and students equally. ONDC, Open Network for Digital Commerce, democratizes digital commerce, and FASTag, built over UPI, improves traffic management and toll collections efficiency. These DPIs collectively empower sectors such as health, education, finance, mobility, and e-commerce, driving inclusive growth and digital transformation across the nation. The numbers represented here are the reach and the impact these platforms individually have created using modular and interoperable DPI with public and private partnerships. Key enablers for India's DPI implementation. India's holistic approach encompasses connectivity, e-governance, digital literacy, and entrepreneurship simultaneously ensures a well-rounded ecosystem. Strong government leadership, backed by unwavering political will and senior-level commitment, has propelled Digital India forward, fostering coordinated efforts and resource allocation. Public-private collaborations has played the pivotal role with partnerships between government, private sector, and civil society, driving impactful digital initiatives through resource pooling, expertise sharing, and innovation. Digital India ensures that benefits reach all segments of society, particularly marginalized population and underserved region. Significant investments in digital infrastructure, included broadband networks and last-mile connectivity solution, have bridged the digital divide, facilitating widespread digital access. Key enablers for India DPI implementation were financial inclusion initiatives like Aadhaar-enabled payment systems. Promoting digital literacy initiatives had equipped citizens with skills and knowledge needed to harness the digital technologies for personal and economic empowerment. A thriving innovation ecosystem across, supported by conducive policies and infrastructure, foster the development and adoption of digital solutions, driving entrepreneurship and economic growth across. Robust data protection measures and privacy regulation ensure trust and confidence in these digital platforms and services, safeguarding personal data. Customizing digital strategies to suit the local context and addressing these unique challenges and opportunity ensured relevance and effectiveness at the grassroots level, driving sustainable transformation across the nation. India's digital initiative have revolutionized access to financial services, driving economic inclusion. This transformation extended beyond finance with benefits like reduced fraud and faster e-governance services. The power of DPI. By 2030, 10 high-potential ODEs, when we say ODEs, open digital ecosystem, in sectors like health, jobs, agriculture, skilling, education, justice, logistics, etc., can collectively create a new value and, as estimated, USD 500 billion, equivalent to 5.5% of India's GDP, generate $200+ billion in saving to the country. Health life expectancy could be increased by 3+ years. Education and skilling, 15 to 25 million student dropouts expected in school, 50 to 80 million people expected to be matched with better suited job. Mobility, 100+ hours expected to be saved per person per year due to smart mobility solutions. Agriculture, 1.5 times increase expected in farmers' incomes. Logistic, 5 to 15% efficiency savings expected in national logistic expenditure. State service delivery, 20% more eligible citizen expected to be included in social safety net. E-land records, 1 million people and 250,000 hectares of land expected to be impacted via resolved land conflicts. MSMEs, 10 to 15 million small and medium enterprises expected to be included in the formal financial systems. Can DPI unlock Africa's potential future also? And very well, yes. The DPI stand poised to revolutionize Africa's future, drawing parallels with India's pre-2010 challenges while acknowledging distinct regional differences. Much like India, Africa also grapple with infrastructural deficiencies, telecommunications limitations, capacity and capability constraints. However, the divergence in industry dynamics, technology readiness, and demographic profiles, coupled with Africa's vast geographic expanse comprising 54 countries and over 3,000 languages, present unique complexities. Despite these disparities, DPI offers a pathway forward which is transformative. By addressing digital inequality and gender disparities, DPI can democratize access to digital resources and empower marginalized communities. Furthermore, DPI has the potential to ensure governance structures, streamline administrative systems, and foster collaboration across diverse linguistic and cultural landscape. One critical aspect of DPI in Africa lies in the adaptability to regional nuances, tailoring solutions to accommodate language diversity, and administration systems specific to each country is paramount. Moreover, leveraging DPI to bolster telecom infrastructure and build technological capacity is essential for sustainable growth and development. Through strategic investments in DPI, Africa can definitely unlock its vast potential, driving inclusive economic growth, empowering people, and bridging the digital divide. Unlocking economic, societal, and governance values in Africa through DPI will require coordinated efforts from governments, private sector, and civil society organizations to come together and promote digital literacy, digital infrastructure, and foster innovation across. Africa can harness the transformative power of technology to drive inclusive growth, empower the citizens, and build resilient government structures for the future. Let's find out, can India's DPI approach work for all? India's comprehensive DPI approach has yielded significant results but may not be universally applicable. While effective for India's context, other countries face unique challenges and may require tailored strategies. The one-size-fits-all approach overlooks diverse socio-economic, technological, and governance landscape. Hence, the answer is no. Different countries are in different usage of digital transformation, different stages of digital transformation. Countries vary in digital infrastructure, regulatory frameworks, and technological readiness. Some nations may be at nascent stage of transformation, while others may be more advanced. Factors like availability of ID, internet penetration, digital literacy rates, and economic development influence DPI implementation. How can this be addressed? We recommend a one-step-at-a-time approach. So what is this one-step-at-a-time approach? Different countries have different digital starting points. A puzzle piece approach reuse what is available and only build what couldn't be found, or is the niche to the country's sectoral requirements, cultural and economics. This phased approach allows DPI strategies to fit each country's need, building on existing strengths, reuse what's available and only develop what's missing. This saves money, reduce reliance on outside help, and create a sustainable digital foundation which can be owned by the country. By sharing and repurposing these spaces, countries can advance faster, creating economic opportunities and improving society. Imagine a country with robust national ID system but a weak online payment infrastructure. They could leverage their ID system as a puzzle piece and integrate a pre-built secure payment solution to quickly establish a digital marketplace. This is just one example how the puzzle piece approach allows for efficient and context-specific DPI development. Thus, by investing in and repurposing shared assets, countries can accelerate their DPI journey, building a sustainable digital backbone. As shown here, DPI building blocks such as those for education and health can be expanded and repurposed for addressing needs, compounding their values when integrated into downstream systems. Leveraging this approach offers multiple advantages such as cost effectiveness, reduced dependency, external vendors lock-in, and long-term sustainability with faster go-to-market. How can this be implemented quickly? The answer is DPI as a solution, which we call DAS. This is the transformative yet simple innovation to implement DPI with speed. Let's understand DAS with an example. Imagine you are building a customizable house from scratch wherein you will have to wait for a few years while it's getting built, spend upfront money, take high risk, and start living in it. This is the traditional DPI route. Now imagine moving into a modular house that can be partially customized and allows you to start living immediately. You still own it, you have the control, and it's yours. payment could be in installments, basis usage. This is the DAS model. This is a pre-programmed plug-and-play, easily deployable solution, which consists of software and documentation, implementation details, and governance package. Through DAS, countries can benefit from DPI that is tailored to their specific use case and desired outcomes, layering the groundwork for broader adoption. These packaged products significantly reduce the time, cost, and workforce required for local, use case-driven DPI development and deployment. Countries retain full control as these are built on open standards, open specs, and are in true nature open sourced over the pilot system and customize them post-pilot before scaling up. DAS leverages existing elements of digital government and national infrastructure building, such as cloud computing, packaged software purchases, and open source digital public goods, to create a streamlined solution within the potential of significant impact. One of the key components of the ID system in DAS is registry and credentialing. This is why it is important. Registry and credentialing systems are essential for any verification, trust building, regulatory compliance, access control, etc. Protean X is our offering. It is the future of digital verifiable credential and ID management system where you can issue, store, share, verify information seamlessly. It is powered by a distributed ledger and enterprise-wide open source blockchain, layer 1 blockchain. It empowers individual and organizations and governments to own, manage, share, and verify their credentials and information all digitally and secure. It has 3 main components. X1, which is the layer 1 blockchain, open sourced. X Studio, all-in-one solution to design and issue credentials. X Wallet, which is a secure and portable data storage for digital verifiable credentials. To know more about DAS and Protean X, please visit our stall at C18. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Matthias, for your lovely presentation. I like your one-step approach concept, but I would like to see an honest assessment of the technical capacity required for such transformation. I'm going to quickly ask you a question from the audience because we don't have much time, and there's one that really piqued my mind. It speaks to how can Africa replicate India's success? If you can kindly answer that question, thank you.
So, yesterday also I was talking to a few of the government officials. My feedback to them was, there is something. How can we start from where the country is, right? 54 countries in the continent, each in a different space, operating, few may have, foundational IDs, few may have few functional IDs. How do we start? So the simple answer was, take the paper and put the QR code and make it digitally acceptable. That's the simplest digital transformation start. You did not overhaul your systems. There are paper records already handled by the citizens, whether it's land, whether it's their education certificates. Just put the verifiable credential and make it digitally acceptable and bring it to the mainframe. So we all as citizens globally, we are used to handling papers till now. It's just putting that QR code. And that's where most of our foundational IDs or functional IDs given in India are operated through QR code. UPI, Unified Payment Interface that I spoke about, operates on QR code. That's where we started. It's not to overhaul the systems or create a new one.
Thank you for your answer. In your presentation, you spoke about the idea of reusing what is available, but before that can happen, there has to be a clear governance framework that would sort of allow both parties to be able to exchange existing assets. How do you see this working?
See, we can definitely put a start, right? We can obviously, take few. So, as an organization, we are working on some farmer use cases back in India. While it's a national build-out, we are creating a complete registries and credential for the farmers, the lands, and others. we are starting with few villages. We adopted few 10 villages across the country, experimented, learned, because we sitting in, maybe in the capital or in the technology hub as Bangalore or Mumbai, Pune, we cannot solve and understand the on-ground problem. That's where we adopted few villages across, did the pilot, came back to our whiteboard, went back to a state-level rollout, then multiple state-level rollout, in the provinces, different provinces of the India. And that's the approach, right? You cannot write, and yesterday also I heard, few speakers saying you cannot have 6 months, 1 year RFP written down which fits across, and you are confident that it will work after the implementation and adopted by the citizens.
Another question from the audience. I'm going to take 2 more questions. The first one speaks to the question that says, is Protean a private company or government one?
We are a private and now a listed organization back in India. Okay. So we have our investors from both private banks, public banks and international banks as our main investors, and now listed, so public, investors as well.
The next question from the audience, what are Protean's main references in terms of implementation of nationwide foundational ID solutions?
So our foundational ID in India, Aadhaar, it was formed by an agency, government-backed agency called UIDI. We were one of the implementation partners to them, and now we do a lot of e-verification services, digital smart contracting over a foundational ID. Initially in 2000, early 2000, we rolled out the tax identification number. We call it PAN card number. So more than 400 million PAN cards were released by the organization. We also handle what is called a social security number, and we call it PRAN. So these are all functional IDs. These are distributed. We are the only central record keeping agencies back in India. And similarly, so that's where we operate at the foundational ID level to disseminate the foundational ID and work on the verification services, while we do 2 of the rollouts on tax identification and social security number, which is the PRAN number.
Okay, just one more last question. It does ask if there are any specific policies adopted by India to leverage DPI for improving GDP.
That's where we spoke about open digital ecosystems. Again, basis open specs and open standards. A lot of open digital ecosystems have been generated, and one such example is ONDC, which is Open Network for Digital Commerce, where it's truly democratized the buyer-seller across the country. You can just post your whatever produce you have, or as a home entrepreneur, if someone wants to have the access of the market, can put their stuff onto that network, and the buyer across the countries are enabled. This has fostered, multiple use cases, right from, we already have 10 domains live, so your food is available on the network, your fashion, electronics, even mobility. And recently, CEO in India announced that all the logistic Uber solutions will be provided through ONDC. So the trucks are available on the network to operate on. And that's where we are building now. We are trying to couple it up with education and skilling transactions, where jobs are available over the network, open networks. Mentorship, tutoring is available. Education, skilling content is available, as well as support to the students in terms of scholarship grants through corporates are available on the open network. So the discovery is completely democratized that way.
Thank you for your excellent presentation. It's been a pleasure having you up on stage, Matthias. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, all protocol duly respected, thank you for having been with us. And once more, we want to apologize for the late start this morning. And permit me say thank you once more to Engineer Abisoye COKER-ODUSOTE, Director General, National Identity Management Commission, Nigeria, for taking on those 5 experts, as I say, from the Mühlbauer Group, from IDEMIA, from Engr, from EMEA Innovatrics, and Protean e-government technologies. So we say thank you once more.